from George Russell, but the race is unquestionably...
Oh, yes it is! Verstappen denies George Russell!
Imagine waiting all day for a Grand Prix that never actually happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, the race will not resume.
Thousands of Formula One fans did exactly that at Spa-Francorchamps in 2021. The Belgian Grand Prix that year has gone down in history as the race that officially happened without any real racing at all. Rain-soaked, chaotic, and downright absurd, the 2021 Spa race became a once-in-a-lifetime fiasco that left everyone in shock. Cars lined up on the grid, engines roared, and then Mother Nature had other ideas. By the end of the day, after hours of delays, the race was over after just 2 slow laps behind a safety car. No overtakes, no wheel-to-wheel battles, just a wet parade and a very angry audience. How did a Formula One event turn into such an unbelievable washout? Let's dive into the absurd saga of Spa 2021, a Grand Prix where the only winner was the weather. Storm warnings at Spa. Spa-Francorchamps is an iconic circuit beloved by drivers and fans, known for its high speeds and unpredictable weather. In late August 2021, F1 returned to Spa after the summer break, and excitement was sky high. Over 200,000 spectators flocked in over the weekend, eager to see championship rivals Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen resume their tight title fight on this legendary track. But as the weekend began, dark clouds gathered, literally foreshadowing trouble. The Ardennes forest around Spa has a microclimate all its own, and rain is often on the menu. Still, few could imagine just how much it would disrupt this race. Even before Sunday's washout, warning signs appeared. In Saturday's qualifying session, the heavens opened and turned the track into a skating rink. Rising star Lando Norris, who had been fastest through Q1 and Q2, learned this the hard way. As Q3 began under heavy rain, Norris's McLaren hit standing water while climbing the famous outrage/Raidillon section. In an instant, his car aquaplaned out of control and slammed violently into the barriers. The impact was massive, debris everywhere, and the session was immediately red-flagged. Sebastian Vettel, coming up behind, stopped to check if Norris was okay and was absolutely furious with race control. He had been on the radio moments earlier insisting the conditions were too dangerous. Now his worst fears were confirmed. "What did I say? What the fuck did I say?" Vettel raged over the radio, blasting the decision not to delay qualifying despite the torrential rain. Thankfully, Norris climbed out of the wreckage unhurt, but the message was clear. Spa's weather was not to be trifled with. If qualifying was this treacherous, what would race day bring? Deluge on race day. Sunday, August 29th, 2021, greeted everyone at Spa with relentless rain. Not just a light drizzle, but a downpour of biblical proportions. As the morning went on, the rainfall only intensified. By early afternoon, the circuit was completely soaked. Rivers of water ran across sections of tarmac, and huge puddles formed at the low points. The start time of the race, 3 p.m. local, was fast approaching, but it was obvious to anyone watching that sending Formula One cars out at that moment would be courting disaster. On TV, you could see the raindrops and spray, but those on site said the cameras didn't do it justice. From the pit lane, observers saw rain blowing sideways, and beyond the track, thick foggy mist shrouded the forested hills. It was the kind of rain that soaks you to the bone in minutes, and it showed no sign of stopping. Race control initially delayed the start by 10 minutes, then 15, then more, as they assessed the radar and the track conditions. The safety car went out for a reconnaissance lap and practically disappeared in the spray. Visibility was near zero. Formula One cars are built to channel air in extreme ways. In heavy rain, the flip side is they kick up plumes of water vapor. Each car can throw out tons of water per second from its tires, meaning anyone behind is driving blind. As Lewis Hamilton later described, "You really couldn't see the car ahead, like 5 meters in front of you it disappears." And that day, visibility wasn't the only issue. Drivers reported aquaplaning even at low speeds. Standing water on the track made it impossible for the tires to clear it all away, causing cars to float and skate unpredictably. When 3 o'clock came, conditions were actually at their worst. The start was postponed again and again. Fans huddled under whatever cover they could find, while teams and drivers waited tensely for updates. Imagine being a driver sitting in the cockpit on the grid, engine off, just watching the rain hammer down on your visor, unsure if you'll be racing or not. Some drivers actually got out of their cars and sought shelter or a bathroom break as the delays dragged on, a very unusual scene at a race start. Every 15 minutes or so, an announcement came. Start procedure delayed. The crowd, bless their hearts, tried to stay upbeat, doing Mexican waves in the grandstands and chanting to keep spirits up, but as the downpour continued, an uneasy feeling set in. Would they cancel the race? In modern F1, outright cancellations are almost unheard of once an event is underway. Everyone truly wanted to race if it was remotely possible. Little did they know the farce that was brewing. Hours of chaos and confusion. Minutes turned into hours. Teams hovered around monitors tracking weather radar. Drivers tried to stay warm and kill time, some chatting with engineers, others pulling out their phones. In the grandstands, unbelievably, most fans stayed. They were getting drenched and cold, but they had paid for a race and were holding out hope they'd see one. Periodically, a cheer would erupt if the rain lightened slightly, only for the skies to open up again moments later. The phrase, "impossible waiting game," was used to describe the situation. Everyone was essentially at the mercy of Mother Nature, and she wasn't playing nice. Amid this, a bizarre incident had already highlighted how treacherous it was. Sergio Perez's crash before the race even began. While driving to the grid prior to the initial start, Red Bull's Sergio Perez lost control on the wet track and slid into the barriers, wrecking his front suspension. It was a low-speed crash that underscored the absurdity of the conditions. Even at crawl pace, the car couldn't stick to the asphalt. Normally, crashing on the way to the grid means an automatic DNS did not start. Perez's car was badly damaged. Red Bull initially told race control they were retiring the car. But with the start delayed and delayed and delayed, Red Bull's mechanics impressively went into overdrive. In the garage, they thrashed to repair Perez's car during the rain delay, even asking the FIA if he could start from the pit lane since the race hadn't technically started when he crashed. In an unprecedented twist, a couple hours later the officials actually said yes. Perez would be allowed to take the restart if the race happened, from the pit lane, because the circumstances were so unusual. This kind of thing just doesn't happen under normal rules, but Spa 2021 was anything but normal. 2 laps and a farcical finish. As the clock hit 6:17 p.m., every remaining fan's eyes were on the pit lane. Engines fired up again. Was this it? Were they actually going to race? The answer, tragically, was no. What followed was 2 of the strangest laps in Formula One history. The safety car, a Mercedes GT, led the field out once more, with Max Verstappen's Red Bull right behind, followed by the rest of the cars in qualifying order. The track was as drenched as ever, rooster tails of spray billowing from each car. This time, however, these laps counted. Formula One declared the race had officially commenced as the cars left the pit lane. Fans watched with a mix of relief and bewilderment. Relief that something was happening. Bewilderment at how little it was. Sure enough, after precisely 2 laps trundling around behind the safety car, the red flags waved again. The race was over, for good. It was the epitome of anticlimax. In the record books, the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix is listed as having run 1 official lap for a total distance of just 6.88 kilometers. That makes it the shortest F1 World Championship race ever run, breaking a record that had stood since 1991. And yes, believe it or not, an official race winner was declared and full podium ceremony ensued. Max Verstappen, who had started on pole, was awarded the victory. Hardly the satisfying, hard-fought win a racer dreams of, but a win nonetheless. For Verstappen, it was technically his 6th win of the season, nudging him closer in points to Hamilton in their title battle. In P2, incredibly, was George Russell. The young Brit had stunned everyone by qualifying his Williams on the front row, and because no racing laps happened, Russell kept that P2 to secure his first ever Formula One podium. He stood on the podium grinning in disbelief, holding a trophy for a race where all he did was drive behind a safety car and stay in second. Lewis Hamilton was classified 3rd, having started 3rd, thus rounding out a very strange podium. Outrage among drivers and fans. No sooner had the race ended than a firestorm of outrage erupted throughout the Formula One community. Leading the charge was Lewis Hamilton, who did not mince words about what went down. In the post-race interviews, Hamilton, known for his usually measured comments, was visibly annoyed. He called the event a farce and said fans had been robbed of a proper race. His most scathing remark was pointing at Formula One's motives. "Money talks," Hamilton said bluntly, suggesting that the only reason the cars were sent out for those 2 laps was so the organizers could officially call it a race and avoid having to refund tickets or TV money. "It's all a money scenario," he said, "so everyone gets their money. I think the fans should get theirs back too because unfortunately, they didn't get to see what they came and paid for." Those words hit hard. Here was the biggest star in F1 implying the sport put profit over fans by staging a sham race. Hamilton also described the conditions as a disaster and affirmed that while he loves racing in the rain, there was no way to do it safely that day. Notably, Hamilton wasn't angry about not racing. He agreed that visibility was so bad it would have been dangerous, but he was angry that F1 didn't just cancel or postpone, instead choosing this half-hearted points-awarding charade. He wasn't alone. Numerous drivers and team bosses piled on with criticism. Fernando Alonso scoffed at the idea of calling it a race at all, and Sebastian Vettel, typically never shy with his opinions, said awarding points for basically nothing was ridiculous. "If you want to reward qualifying, then give points for qualifying on Saturday," Vettel remarked. "But what did we do today? I don't know." Carlos Sainz Jr., who was classified 10th and got a measly 0.5 point, was also upset. "If we didn't race, why should there be a result? Or points?" Sainz argued. He felt he hadn't earned anything, half a point felt as hollow as it sounds, and that doing laps just to tick the points box was nonsense. Other veterans pointed out how in the past F1 had raced in worse rain. Some cited the 2007 Japanese GP downpour as an example, suggesting that maybe F1's tolerance for weather had changed, for better or worse. Fallout. Rule changes and lessons learned. The Spa 2021 debacle did, at least, have one positive outcome. It prompted Formula One to fix some of its rules and procedures. The controversy shone a spotlight on an obscure rule that had existed for decades, the 2-lap rule that technically allowed a race to be classified after just 2 laps. This rule, unbelievably, had been around since the 1970s. In the months following the Belgian GP, F1's rulemakers moved quickly to ensure this wouldn't happen again. First order of business: change the points and race classification criteria. For 2022 and beyond, the FIA introduced a new system. No points would be awarded unless a minimum of 2 laps were completed under green flag conditions. In other words, a race isn't a race until they actually race. Sounds obvious, but that wasn't technically the rule before. Additionally, they implemented sliding scales for reduced points if a race is shortened, depending on how much distance is covered. This meant if a future race was cut short by weather or red flags, the points awarded would be more proportional, and only if some real racing occurred. The infamous Spa scenario of half points with 0 racing was legislated out of existence. Interestingly, the very next year in Japan, 2022, a race ended early due to rain and confusion arose because teams expected reduced points. The new rules gave full points since it finished under green. That prompted yet another tweak for 2023. Spa also caused F1 to consider the spectator experience more. After that debacle, there were internal talks about how to better communicate with fans at the track during long delays. The public relations blow of not refunding fans also taught F1 and promoters a lesson. The goodwill of the fan base is precious, and once lost, it's hard to regain. In fact, to show some goodwill, Lewis Hamilton himself sent a personal, exclusive gift to fans who attended the Spa race that day as a thank you for sticking it out. By the time F1 returned to Spa in 2022, a lot had changed. The rules wouldn't allow a repeat of 2021's scoring farce, and fortunately, that race was run under clear skies. But memories of 2021 still loomed. Drivers and teams had in the back of their minds the knowledge that, yes, a race can disappear to weather, and the sport will handle it differently now. As F1 commentator David Croft said later, Spa 2021 will never happen again. We simply won't let it. It became a case study for the sport. Learn from your mistakes or be doomed to repeat them. The rain won, the fans lost, and F1 learned a lesson. If this gave you something to think about, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell. Comment below. Should points ever be awarded without a single green flag lap?